My name is Frances Haugen, and I am a social media accountability and transparency advocate.
Hi, my name is Jeff Orlowski-Yang, and I'm the filmmaker and I'm the director of The Social Dilemma. Social media is technology. These are technology companies that are using all of the content in the world to figure out what we're most likely to want to engage with. And it's constantly testing on you what is the thing that's going to keep you that much longer, keep you swiping. That fuels their business model. Their business model is advertising. They collect all of that data to better predict what you might be interested in, and that's how they make their many, many millions of dollars.
We had a feeling something was wrong. Like, it was kind of obvious to everyone something was wrong. But because Facebook had been operating behind a veil, they had been allowed to be the framers of the conversation. You know, they'd been able to say, like, oh no, this is only about censorship and freedom of speech. No, social media is not bad for kids. It's just, a few kids. It's not a systemic problem. And as soon as they discovered that, in fact, Facebook had research for years that kids were really suffering.
One of the people that we started talking to shared a framework that our technology is creating a climate change of culture that is invisibly shaping the way we think, the way we see the world, the information. How do we know what we know? And that argument is what convinced my whole team, okay, let's think about this and let's work on it. It is this invisible hand that is shaping society. There's an often used phrase that social media is ripping apart the fabric of society. And that's the thing where I was like, there's something here that we need to make a commentary on.
Data is being collected about us. We're not exactly sure what that data is. We're not sure in whose hands that data is. And we know all of it has incredible valuation because it can be used as a mechanism to target us. And as a result, because if every individual is being micro-targeted in particular ways, at scale, on the level of a citizenry or a nation, it creates a lot of division because we all are actually experiencing our own digital worlds.
In the United States, there's like a 50-60% chance we're going to pass the first piece of tech regulation in like 20 years. Coming up in the next few months. In the European Union, we're like weeks away from them passing the Digital Services Act.
Something that's really interesting is, Frances mentioned, this was right before the Digital Services Act was ratified by some governing body in the EU, and she was right. It did get ratified, so it's gonna eventually, come into enforcement sometime in the future.
The public has a lot of power here. I think as the public continues to learn more and more about what's going on, you can demand more of your politicians, and you can change the way you use your platforms themselves. I've stopped using any social media platforms. I want to use stuff that I pay for. That's my own headspace. I actually try to boycott anything that I see digital advertising for, which is it's actually pretty easy to do.
What if we collected ads that we saw? Like, what if we developed apps that we either put on our phones or that wrote along on our laptops that began collecting databases of ads? Imagine if young people had demands and they went to advertisers and said, unless our demands for transparency, for accountability are met, we're going to start protesting your products. We're going to make it a social taboo to advertise on Facebook. Because right now, until we go after the business model, until we start actually showing up at Facebook offices and protesting, I want to remind students, there's only one road in the Menlo Park campus. Like, we'd literally be stopping the buses.
Frances had a really interesting insight, which was there's just another form of resistance you can do, right? So one common thing that people say is, work in an affinity group, work at a nonprofit, work at an NGO, something like that. And she's like, that's fine too. Or work at Facebook, right? Take the $250K a year that they give you. And, you can finish your job at like an amount where you won't get fired for working on like 20 hours a week, right? And spend your other 20 hours a week like working on disinformation at Facebook, or spend your time like annoying people at the teams, like, hey, we need to be taking these problems more seriously, and try to make that change from the inside. And hearing someone who had been working there and said, it is still possible to make change from the inside, and there is a lot more options that you have than you might think. I thought was a little bit inspiring. And talking to some students after the fact, some of whom are, interning at Facebook this summer, after talking to Francis, they seemed more motivated, saying, wow, yeah, I can, work for 30 hours in my normal day job and spend 10 and like work on civic disinformation.